can hear Indy all week on Sports Radio 610. He wants to talk Texans, and a star was born in these playoffs.
Stars were born, and that sounds crazy when I talk about Arian Foster and J.J. Watt here in Houston, here in Texas, or if you're a big-time football fan, you know Arian Foster is a star. But this was a chance for him to be on the national stage, to be on the only game being aired on TV. And I think with what he did, with what J.J. Watt did, they just opened the eyes of America to what's going on in Houston, Texas. You talk about teams having their window closing at their Super Bowl opportunity, you can see that the opportunity for the Texans, the window's opening. And with the way J.J. Watt played as a 5 technique in the 3-4, 12 tackles, 2.5 sacks, multiple pressures, then Arian Foster being the first running back to ever run for over 100 yards against the Baltimore Ravens in a playoff game. I mean, what they did was amazing. There's no moral victories. They're upset because this weekend they're going to be watching and not playing. But I really think the nation took notice. And because of the way those two guys played and the entire team, I think they just gave themselves at least 2 more primetime games for next year.
Hopefully they'll put those primetime games on at Reliant Stadium, not on the road like they did last year when they should have learned their lesson. It's interesting what you say about Watt. I've never seen a defensive lineman have 12 tackles in a game. He had 3 tackles for loss, 3 hits on the quarterback, and his sack. And people are talking about, I can't remember who it was, an ex-player tweeted he thinks he'll be maybe the premier interior defensive lineman next year for a long time if he stays healthy. And a good thing about old JJ is he plays so hard all the time. That bodes well for that defense. After that game, the Ravens were like, whew, they were glad the Texans got out of town. Now, Jacoby Jones, we all know, he made a really stupid play, one bad play. As an ex-player, does one bad play like that cost you a game?
Absolutely not. And I'm not here to defend Jacoby Jones, but anybody that's been in a meeting room after a loss, anybody that's played football to the high school level, you know that one play doesn't cost you a game. Unfortunately for Jacoby, it was one huge mistake, and everybody feels that set the tone. But don't forget, there was 4 turnovers, there were some missed passes, there were some drop balls, and it's a shame because you understand how hard he worked this offseason, not just on his game on the field, off the field. His maturity level was there. You know, he told me before the season started, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm starting to act like a man. I'm taking this serious. He was excited about his 3-year extension, and he just had an unfortunate play. And I'll even say Kevin Walter, that's another guy expected to step up and to maybe have 5-6 catches. He only had 2 catches, and they didn't do much during the whole playoff run. So those 2 guys had a tough run. But I personally haven't lost faith in them. I think they can bounce back from it, and they're still good complementary receivers to Andre Johnson.
We're going to get in another segment about what the Texans need next year. I think we're going to agree it's a guy at their position.
Yes.
Now, Jacoby Jones, a lot of people want to run him out of town. He's not going anywhere. He's one of the top return guys in the league. I feel sorry for the guy. His agent, Kennard McGuire, said nobody burned jerseys on his lawn, said nobody's made death threats to Jacoby. He's doing fine. His mom said he was doing fine. He apologized to his teammates. I feel terrible for a player like that. Now, that's not the biggest bonehead decision in this city's NFL history in the playoffs. The biggest one has 2 words, stagger and leave. Now, what do the Packers and the Texans have in common?
Well, when you talk about turnovers, that's something they have in common. Both of these teams, they played very good ball, but they could not win because of turnovers. They both had 4 turnovers, and I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you have a rookie quarterback or if you have a Hall of Fame type quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. When you have 4 turnovers in a game and you're playing in the playoffs, so you know you're playing against a good team, it's just not going to happen. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of these teams that were supposed to win, quote unquote, supposed to win, they lost. Even if you look at New Orleans Saints, who had 5 turnovers, you just can't turn the ball over.
After the game, Indy, one of the things that impressed me was we're trying to talk to the players about next season, looking back at this season. They were devastated they lost the game. They thought they were going to win. They thought they were going to advance to New England and play at Foxborough. And they were interested in talking about that loss and how bad they felt. And I thought that was a really good sign. And what all this means going forward, is there anybody could have a bad taste in their mouth after this season and what they overcame?
Well, the players are, and it's going to be tough. We talked to Coach Kubiak on Sports Radio 610 yesterday, and he didn't see this as a moral victory. You just heard in his voice. I think it's more of the people on the outside saying, you know what, we see the future. We see how bright the future can be. But for the players, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. I've been there before where you lose a playoff game that you felt like you could have won, you should have won, and the toughest thing to do is to watch the game next week, especially when you see the opponent and you feel like you could defeat the opponent. It's going to be very tough for that coaching staff and those players to watch New England go against Baltimore.
I think a lot of them won't watch that game either. Everybody I've talked to, all the national media was in that press box. After the game, everybody was talking about Texans running game, the young guys like Watt, Brooks Reed, talking about the great defense, how great that defense is going to be after an off season with Wade Phillips. Wade's not going anywhere. So I don't know how anybody could not be fired up about next season. I'd like to take about a week or two off, and then I'm ready for them to report to training camp. Let's get on with the 2012 season.
They won't like that because they want their rest. They want to go on
they
vacation.
won't like that at all.
But I'm with you. I want to get this next season started because just like you said, the future is bright, especially with Wade Phillips. It looks like he's going to return. I personally would like to see him get a head coaching job because I think he earned it with what he did, the way he turned this defense around. It would bode well for any other team looking for somebody that's trying to bring their defense up to levels. So, it's unfortunate for him, the person, but for the Texan organization, it's very good news that he's going to be staying.
I've got a 10-part series evaluating front office, coaching staff, and every position running in the Chronicle, and one of the things is the Mario issue. They have no cap money. They don't have to re-sign Arian Foster. He's a restricted free agent. They would like to, but they got guys like Chris Myers, Joel Dreesen, Neil Rackers. They got a lot of free agents that have to be re-signed, and Mario is going to want big money. He's made a lot of money. He's going to want big money. I'm contend that they're going to end up if they franchise him, it's going to cost them $22 million on their cap. Can't do that. So if he doesn't sign a contract that's very cap friendly for them, they're going to have to trade him. And I think he's going to be traded. I can't see Brooks Reed going back to the bench. If they were to trade Mario, what do you think they could get for him?
Oh, man, when you look at Mario, and everyone says he has this injury issue. When you go back and look at the games that he's missed, besides this year, he hasn't missed a bunch of games due to injury because he always fights his way through them. The thing is, they're very documented. People know that he's fighting through injury, so it seems like he has this, this aura of being injured all the time, but that's not the case. But to answer your question, I would say teams would give up a first round and pick other picks or a first round and a veteran player to get Mario Williams. It is so hard to find a true pass rusher. It's one thing to get sacks because Wade Phillips made a great call and y'all ran a great stunt and the timing was right. It's another thing just to get sacks on a base defense because you beat the guy in front of you. That's what Mario Williams does, and that's what he's done this past year before he was injured. So I would not be surprised to see a team give up a first-round pick and either other picks or a veteran player.
I was thinking give up a 1 and conditional based on how much time he plays. Would he need to go to a 4-3 team?
He's already proven that he could play 3-4, 4-3, and a lot of that is Wade Phillips. Before this Wade Phillips phenomenon started, I said, you know what, the players are still the guys that make the plays, but Wade Phillips, he was huge. His thumbprint was on this defense. I believe a lot of the sacks were caused because of the line stunts, because of the calls at the right time, but Mario can play 3-4 linebacker. He's proven that. I believe he had 5 sacks before he was injured, and we obviously know what he could do with his hand in his dirt. He has to make that decision to decide what style of defense he wants to play.
Well, that's good, then. That would open up everybody, not try just exclusive to 4-3 teams.
Right.
Do we agree that the number one need is to get a good, young, talented wide receiver in the first round?
Absolutely. As much as I've been, commending Jacoby Jones on being, a decent backup wide receiver, but a good punt returner, and Kevin Walter for doing all the right things, you still need to have that explosive threat. You still need to have that guy. If an Andre Johnson goes down, other teams are still planning to try to stop that other wide receiver. I don't think that was the case when Andre Johnson was out of the lineup this year. I like some guys out there. Kendall Wright from your old school. I don't know if he'll be around when the Texans pick, but there's some receivers that they should go after. I think will be their number one priority in the draft this year.
I think also they could use some depth in the offensive line. They got so lucky that Eric Winston and Dwayne Brown were healthy because they'd have been going to Derek Newton, 7th-round pick, a rookie from Arkansas State, starting at tackle as a rookie. Those guys, to stay healthy and play as well as they did, how they get beat up was pretty was unbelievable.
Right. And
Unbelievable.
With Rashard Butler going down early in the season, hopefully they'll get him back because he is that swing tackle. He provides the depth. So that you're right, they were lucky that after Rashard went down, Eric Winston or Dwayne Brown didn't go down either. So they had their share of injuries, but they didn't have it at the tackle position.